All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Mark Molina, CEO of Molina Leadership and Business Development Solutions. I'm very excited today. We have with us Vonnie Mikkelson, Chief Executive Officer of the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, and Charlie Kimball, who is Chairman of the Board of Directors, and he is also the Chief Financial Officer for the Murphy Company located here in Springfield. Thank you both for making yourselves available. I know you're both very busy with all the things that are taking place. And the purpose of this interview today is to have an extended conversation about the role of the chamber, the role of the board working together to help and to serve the local business community, especially in the difficult times that we find ourselves in. But before we get into the heart of the matter, I'd like to start with you, Vonnie, if you could make an introduction of yourself to those that will hear this and tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Thanks for having us, and really appreciate the opportunity to talk to your public about what the Chamber's doing. I'm Vonnie Mikkelson. I am native to Oregon and native to this area. Was born in Eugene and grew up, went to school primarily in the Junction City area. After graduating from college, I spent much of my next years of my adult life and essentially the first half of my adult career overseas, and then returned to the United States and spent some time in Florida. So about 5 years ago, when this position opened up for the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce in my hometown, essentially, I decided to put my hat. And long story short, here I am. So we moved back about 5 years ago, and been working hard for the members of our community since.
Oh, very good. And just for those that are listening, Vonnie, where'd you go to school at? What was your major?
I was at Willamette University, and I had somehow managed through a double major in international relations and political science, of all things, with a minor in Spanish. And then I went to Japan.
Yeah. Congratulations. So you are bilingual.
In Japanese, not
Yes.
so good in Spanish anymore. I can get by, but Japanese, I did find my way through 16 years working in bilingual circumstances in Japan.
Very good. Congratulations. That's a big achievement. Okay, Charlie, could you give us a brief introduction, please, sir?
Sure. Well, I am also a native Oregonian. I was born here in Eugene at Sacred Heart. More years ago now than actually I would care to admit, but grew up in Central Oregon and graduated from Redmond High School. Attended Linfield for my undergraduate, and I have a degree in management with an emphasis in accounting, and then I have an MBA from Willamette University. So Vonnie and I share an alma mater there. CPA by trade, worked for Coopers & Lybrand back when it was Coopers & Lybrand and before it became PricewaterhouseCoopers. Been in private now for a long time. Was in the motorhome biz for a long time until there wasn't a motorhome business back in 2008. Came to work for John here at Murphy Company in 2011, and I've been here ever since. I've got beautiful wife, a couple of kids, a couple of grandkids, I love Oregon. I hope that what we're going through right now is can get behind us and we can move forward with something a little more positive. And I got asked onto the chamber board about 6 years ago now, I think, and spent time doing that, and I enjoy it. Was the finance committee chair for a while and treasurer, and the board saw fit to elect me as the chairman last year. So here I am. You guys are stuck with me for a little while, but
well, that's okay. It's been quite the journey for us all.
Yes, it has.
Starting in January, we started off all excited, very strong, and very energetic, looking towards the future. And then lo and behold, we find ourselves in the midst of this pandemic. And I think this is a very timely interview as we're coming into stimulus package. We're coming in to support, hopefully, as far as many small businesses as we can from the government, all the different forms of the stimulus that are available, paycheck protection, the EIDL, the CARES package, many things. But I think it's more critical to have a discussion with the leader of our chamber as well as the chairman of our board, because your view is 30,000 feet. Your view is a significant collective view of the overall impact to the business community that affects the lives of the residents, the lives of our community, the lives of those that need the community, the business community to be healthy and to be vibrant. And there's our chamber who has the heartbeat of what's going on in the business. It is unparalleled. And then Charlie, you have this amazing privilege and responsibility as our board chair to help keep us focused in support of that chamber mission. So I'd like to start with, if we could, just a moment, could we talk a little bit about what is the makeup, what is the board of directors? What is the makeup of our board, and how do we help serve our local chamber of commerce and its mission?
Sure, I'll take a cut, and Vonnie, feel free here if I'm missing something you think is important, or if I'm, as I like to say, over my skis. But at the root, the board really is set up to help provide governance for the chamber and provide the first level voice about what we want the chamber to do and what we're about. You know, people ask me, what's the mission of the chamber, and we have our mission statement, and I always have to make sure I read it properly. But it's fostering business at the end of the day. And you know, well, what does fostering business mean, and what does the term commerce mean? Commerce to me, and I say this all the time, is when business, government, and education work together hand in hand. And that's what the chamber does at the end of the day, and Vonnie does a very good job doing it. And board's responsibility then is to make sure we provide her the proper guidance, the proper feedback, stewardship, and fiduciary responsibilities and ability to get that done. And if you talk about the diversity of our board, we've got a wonderful board, and we've got folks from LTD, Sub, City of Springfield, LCC, Springfield School District, and then we have professional services folks. We've got manufacturers. We've got high tech, real estate, healthcare. I mean, we've really tried to develop a well-rounded group that can, you know, give Vonnie the feedback and tools that she needs. I think one of the questions you'd asked me, Mark, people think that board members get paid. That's in public companies and big companies, private companies. In our circumstance, every one of those folks that's there are doing this because they have a love for doing the good work the chamber's doing. So no one gets paid. We devote our time on our own. Most of us, of course, probably all of us have more than full-time jobs, but we carve that time out because we think it's important.
Very good. Vonnie, what would you like to add regarding the chamber board, its makeup, and how the board best serves you and the chamber mission?
Thank you, Mark. So Charlie really hit the nail on the head. Diversity is key, and diversity and direct representation of our membership as a whole, which in fact is a cross-section representation of our community as a whole. So we have 24 board members, each of them there for a specific reason, each of them highly valued for both their insights, their knowledge, and certainly for their commitment to the community at large, not only their business and their respective interests, which they set aside to come together when we discuss our priorities for the Chamber of Commerce collectively. So I call them the best chamber board in the state, and I think it's true. And I stick with that story. They truly are the best board, honestly, that I've ever had the privilege of working for. And as a chamber executive, I'm now in my 10th year. So that's a lot of years, and that's a lot of different boards to have worked with. One of the things that we have worked really hard and been very successful at in the last 5 years is developing a highly focused strategic plan, and a strategic plan that leads right back to deliverables that are core and key to our mission in fostering prosperity in our community through strengthening, representing, and promoting business. And another key component of that, which the board is directly responsible for and understands and takes seriously, is that fiduciary oversight. So stewarding the resources that our members pay into, essentially are invested in their chamber community. And that takes purpose, that it takes priority setting, and it takes commitment to resourcing those priorities through through management of those dollars that our members are invested in our community as a whole. So I couldn't be more grateful. A strong chamber is a strong community, and a strong chamber doesn't happen without strong leadership on the board. So, and that goes for you too, Mark, as a member of our board and a very important member of our board. So.
Yeah, being on the board of the chamber, it's serious business. I love it. I love the effort, the hard work, the commitment, the devotion of business leaders that are coming together, knowing that if we're not successful, our economy's not successful, our community, our city, for the citizens, it's not going to be an enjoyable place to live. We all have to have our hands to the plow moving forward. What are some of the subcommittees that the board of directors for the Springfield Chamber of Commerce operate in to help support the mission of the chamber? And this is for the people that don't know, that will listen to this and say, I had no idea they did all those kinds of things.
Yeah, so we have a variety of standing committees, and of course, then we have at times ad hoc committees for special projects. But I'll speak to a couple of them that have seen a lot of active duty right now. The executive committee, of course, is made up of certain members that have been chosen, again, getting a diverse section of people, but for a smaller group that can handle more confidential matters and give Vonnie some direct feedback. So the executive committee will, when there's something particularly timely that needs addressed, the executive committee might and address those sorts of things. But more of the functional side of things would be more like the government issues committee and the economic development committees. So government issues is what you would think it is. It's looking at all the pertinent legislation that, as much as we can, that is coming to us, meeting with a variety of folks. For instance, last week we had a wonderful meeting with Senators Merkley and Wyden, and also Senator Beyer and Representative Lively, and getting their feedback and us providing them with business community's feedback on where we stand on things. And then, of course, the Economic Development Committee is looking at what's impacting the Springfield area and its members from the economic side. And we'll be involved in everything from looking at new projects that are coming up, whether those are public projects or private projects. If a new business is in town or a new business has questions, the Economic Development Committee can respond and help provide guidance to that. And of course, Vonnie's group is mission critical when we have those sorts of inquiries. And then we have a membership committee that interacts directly with our members and solicits everything from what's going on at Main Street to if they have concerns about what the chamber is doing, what events are we hosting, what ribbon cutting ceremonies, those sorts of things, and what value does the chamber bringing? Is that advertising? Is it networking? So the membership committee is really key for us having that interaction directly. And I'm sure I'm missing something else along the way there, but that's kind of my view of how we're structured. And we are structured very functionally, and those are all very active committees. Oh, how could I forget my favorite, the Finance Committee, of course. Yeah, but the Finance Committee, very active committee, and there we address things like you'd expect, our budgetary constraints, new revenue streams that Vonnie's group has come up with. I mean, we've been very, very successful at providing guidance and stewardship around the assets of the Chamber of Commerce, because at the end of the day, those assets are really generated by all of the members that are participating and the folks that are sponsoring the programs that we're involved in. So
Very good. Vonnie, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so Charlie covered a lot of ground there. There's a lot of ground to cover, and we're committed to covering it the best we can, even in good times and bad times, whenever. So one of the key committees over the past 3 years that we've worked very diligently with, Charlie mentioned the ideal center of focus for commerce is the interaction between government, education, and business. Well, our Work Ready initiative has been the epitome of that, has been the definition of that. We have our education committee, we call it our education committee, is at the forefront of that, designing the programs, interfacing with the K-12 and Lane Community College on what kind of workforce pipeline opportunities there are. Certainly our businesses are important participants in that because they are our employers for our students as they come into the workforce, whether that's right after graduation or after a 2-year or a 4-year degree. So that's been a key focus for us, and a very successful one that has inspired probably the best engagement and the most successful partnership that I've, since my Chamber of Commerce career began some 10 years ago, since I've ever witnessed or been a part of. So it's incredibly exciting to be in the middle of that. Couple of the other things, professional development. So we have some really robust and engaging programs where we do, as a region, together with our Eugene Chamber partners for leadership, Eugene Springfield, and we also have some local programs that we do for this, those who are more interested in being focused and engaged in Springfield government and or leadership programs. That's our Springfield Leadership Workshop. So our membership committee is also involved in, certainly in outreach and contact, but also involved in establishing some business education programs. Currently working on a boot camp, which is one of your favorites, I believe, Mark. Business boot camp. We're still planning to do that in May. It might look a little bit different, but we've certainly got good reason to bring forth some important and critical content to small business members, and we intend to follow through on that.
What role does the Springfield Greeters, how do they interact with our local Chamber of Commerce?
You want me to take that, Charlie?
Please do, yeah.
Greeters is one of our finer traditions, if you will. And I will say that the Greeters Committee, they call it Greeters Committee. Committee is kind of loosely defined because it's essentially a business-to-business network where you can see, again, full representation of a business community in that group of individuals. They're highly committed to helping each other succeed in business by introductions, by providing resources, by mentoring, by doing some professional development, and just connecting. So it's incredibly important. They meet weekly, and they ramped up to go live Zoom last week. So weekly on Thursdays at 7:30 a.m. for the foreseeable future, they'll meet each other on Zoom. So I highly encourage small business members. It's actually one of our best gateways to the Chamber. Greeters, we will invite folks if they're thinking about or exploring membership with the Chamber or what the Chamber has to offer. Oftentimes that's their first experience, and it's always a good one and a positive one, and they meet some great people. They meet some people who are genuinely interested in their success, and so it's one of our best, most successful, and longest traditions, and we're very proud of our Greeters group.
Very good.
And let me Mark, let me just one little quick tag onto that, and because the greeters represent the full spectrum of what the Chamber is working on and offers. For certain companies, larger companies, they come to the Chamber because they want to have influence on larger business matters. Other members find it more beneficial to have networking between local businesses. And so when Vonnie talks about what the chamber does, what I really want people to understand is it is a very integrated approach that works with the one or two employee business to the larger businesses and the government agencies they deal with. And that's what they're able to accomplish is pretty amazing in that process.
Yes. Before this pandemic, we were thriving, and doesn't mean we won't thrive in the future. I think it's going to take some time for us to come out of this on a local, global, and national level. We've seen this, I wouldn't call it a revitalization of downtown. I like the word explosion of business downtown. From when I left in 2010 and there was nothing there to all these vibrant restaurants, barbershops, specialty shops, I forget the name of the grocery store that's down there. I like
Street Market.
Yes, ma'am.
Winans been there forever. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. What role does the chamber play in that? Who does the chamber participate with in the ongoing development of economy and business development in the community?
Well, that's a loaded question. Let me be as simple as possible. The first thing I think it's important for folks that aren't as familiar with the chamber to understand is most of our work, I would say 90 to 95% of our work, is done behind the scenes, right? Whether it's through committee, whether it's through staff, whether it's through phone calls, asking for support, writing letters, working with businesses, reaching out. And not every single one of those points in time, those hours that we spent, return, the equivalent or more. We celebrate, no matter what, we celebrate what you call as that infusion, that explosion, that vibrancy that we saw in the last 2 years, regardless of whether we had a direct influence on that or not. So we are focused in generally, and this is where it gets a little ambiguous, but generally we are in the business, if you will, of creating an ecosystem wherein business thrives. So we call that in our big bucket strategic plan, that fostering business vitality. So part of that is the advocacy work we have going on. So that's the ongoing relationships that we have with our local city council, with our local or regional or state governments on what, we're concerned about that might not work for that kind of development and revitalization, and what might work and what might catalyze that kind of work. So that's one area. The other area is really understanding and knowing who those players are, if you will. Mm-hmm. And those players might be the owner of a small business. Honestly, I had this conversation just 2 months prior to the outbreak. Got a referral from the Salem Chamber, of all places, of an individual from Washington State who had heard about our area, wanted to bring his business, which was like a small portable rental storage units, so kind of portable, had specifically heard about us. Salem Chamber friends referred us to our chamber. He came in with his family business. They had won by the way, the Small Business of the Year award in Washington State for their business model and how they had scaled it up. So of course, we want to talk to these folks. They want to understand what's going on in Springfield, where the potential places that they can land their business might be, who do they need to connect with, what do they need to know, and what is the chamber doing? So we have that conversation 2 months ago, in the office. That's one type of conversation that we might have that down the line leads to a new business coming to town and being extremely successful and supporting our local economy. So we often, sometimes it comes a different way. There's a different referral. We work with our government. That's where it's important to work with our local government agencies, local and state, have those good relationships so they know they can call us and can rely on us to be a good partner, to be a strong partner, to be at the table and be reliable when those circumstances come up. I won't continue on, but that's a small sampling of how we sort of work both behind the scenes and then how we are able to celebrate success with our community at large when those successes are more visible on Main Street or Q Street or Glenwood or Gateway or Thurston or wherever it might be.
I guess I would also say, Vonnie, that you guys do a very good job of knowing when new businesses are getting ready to open up and offering to come in and do things like ribbon cutting ceremonies.
Sure.
So that gets some additional advertising and kind of a level of awareness with a lot of the business community. And of course, plugging in back to that greeters question, we've got a very active greeters group that is tailor-made for bringing in those new folks. So when you say what kind of impact have we had on Main Street, I think that puts a bow on it, Mark, from my belief anyways.
I think that Vonnie's answer showed the reality of the complexities of the total work involved and how the chamber has to partner with so many different types of agencies. It's not always government. There is the educational piece. There is the community piece of it all, and how everything needs to come together incrementally and in stages as we have to pass through this portal of information, make sure it's accurate, make sure it's correct, and then help everyone get to the other end of where they're trying to go. When I first joined the chamber board years ago, this is my second term of service, I was shocked at the sheer scope of what a chamber of commerce is responsible for. We have the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, which is in the city of Springfield. Eugene has its own Chamber of Commerce. Then we have this OSCC, Oregon State
Chamber of Commerce, yes.
And then we have the United States Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. So we have these three levels of operation all governing the different levels of business within a city, the state, or the national economy, all trying to get to the same place of economic viability and economic success. Now, Vonnie, you have the distinct privilege and honor of serving as chair of the Oregon State Chamber of Commerce this year, their board. I'd like to, for those that don't get to understand that kind of relationship and that kind of duty, how does that service, how does it help us? How does it help you as a leader? How does it help the business community keep going in the right direction towards success?
Well, first of all, if I can clarify, Mark, for those that are a little unfamiliar, a little bit foggy on that, each of those entities that you described, so the Springfield Area Chamber, any of the other 80 statewide chambers of commerce that operate in their local communities, the State Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce are all completely independent of each other. So we all have different governing boards. We have a different budget. We're like an independent entity in and of ourselves. So the control is local when it comes to your local Chamber of Commerce. Control meaning by your members at the local level. So how we interact with the state, or, you know, in my case too, I've been actively involved and engaged in the chamber professional organizations in industry, which is the Western Association, which is in 14 Western states, as well as the National Association of Chamber Professionals. So there is what you learn pretty quickly. And I came in, you know, to the chamber world sort of mid-career or later in my career. I'd had a lot of, you know, pretty good positive experiences in career, but you learn pretty quickly how much you don't know and how much there is to learn, and that never goes away. In fact, it only increases every single day, and particularly right now. So on the front lines as a chamber professional, it's critical that I have a direct connection and access to any and all resources and information and knowledge available to me so that I can do what I'm committed to do for our members who are looking to us as a chamber for the most credible, accurate, and current information and resources available to them. So that's where sort of and it's never been more apparent to me, and it always has been important to me, but it's never been more apparent. And I feel extremely fortunate to have sort of a historical engagement with these organizations, because right now, every single day, I'm reaching out to one or another of my peers or advisors in professional roles at the Oregon State Chamber or the U.S. Chamber or the Western Association or the ACCE to stay ahead of the curve in terms of not only what we need to know right here, right now, today, to inform our members and to sift through that information that you're talking about, massive volume, to the most critical and most important, but to stay ahead of the curve, to anticipate what's 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 weeks out, what my chamber professionals, particularly when we're talking about this path to reopen or re-engage or recovery, which talking to our members, they're starting to ask those questions. We need to be thinking about that. This is not going to be a local only solution. It's honestly, none of us, really know it. It's got to be in many ways national, in many ways global, and in many ways, we're going to have to put the smartest and most knowledgeable, accurate business minds together with government minds to find out the solution, to that best path forward. So couldn't be more important to be in this position. I'm just incredibly grateful to be there. It's a little more work, but like you know how a little more work pays off, for good reason. So.
And I can tell you from the board's perspective and from mine personal perspective that while these decisions are national based in many respects, those decisions don't get influenced unless we have access to things like what Vonnie is doing, which is taking this and getting it to the state level and beyond. So I know personally, I think that's of many of the numerous projects that she takes on, this one was very important, and I know that she takes it very seriously, and she's got the respect of her fellow chamber members at large across the state. So the OSCC, I got that right?
You got it right.
But that's become an increasingly large voice at the state level, and our plan is we'll continue to foster that relationship and grow that.
And to your point, Charlie, if I could, Mark, just underscore that when Charlie says increasingly important, that's absolutely correct. And you know why? Forever, chambers of commerce have been talking about the importance of small business. The importance of small business, and the small business is the lifeblood of the local communities. And boy, do we know that now. If we didn't know that before, if it wasn't obvious before, we do know it now. And indicative of that, when you look at the CARES Act and the federal relief package, over $380 billion was directed specifically to small business communities. That's a lot. I know it's maybe not enough, and we're working on maybe expanding that a little bit, but whatever it takes. But there's obviously recognition like never before, from federal down to the local level, down to Main Street, like I say, that small business does matter in real terms.
First of all, let me say, as a board member, one of the distinct things that I noticed, Vonnie, when you started working with at the state level, was how much our information, the access we had to information, good, solid, workable information as a board, to better help understand how this big economic picture comes together. And we had better information and access to be more effective. That was just one of the first things I recognized immediately. And so I know that as a board member, it's been very fruitful to have your direct involvement at that level, because it makes us all better. Number two was, I remember as you're talking, Vonnie, I'm thinking about the interviews I've done for the candidates, the city council candidates, and asking the questions about, do you know the makeup of our local business economy? Who are our biggest employers? How many small businesses do we have? And how it all comes back together. Yes, we have a few large businesses here in Springfield, 5 or 6 CEOs of really big businesses, but we got 500 or 600 small business owners. And it's really important that that environment for both sides of the economic picture to maintain their viability. Moving the conversation forward, I'd like to talk a little bit about this pandemic that we're in. This is hard stuff. I was thinking about you earlier, Charlie, a couple of years ago. We had 500,000 acres on fire here in Oregon, and I'm not sure about the amount of acres that burned the summer before. So there's that impact to our local economy. We have now this new threat that is legitimate. We don't know when the full scope of it will end, but now more than ever, people are looking to our chamber to keep us strong, to keep us informed, to keep us focused. In concert with the board and our Chamber of Commerce, how are the two leading together as well as individually to ensure as much as is possible, we can help our community not only survive it, but come out on the other side as successfully as possible? Charlie?
Yeah, and that's a loaded question too.
It is a loaded question.
Good question, but it speaks to the heart of why we're around. You know, from our respect, and I'll take it from the manufacturer side because what I know. We have to find a way to keep operating even during these times, and that means folks working from home, getting on meetings like this. Normally we'd be together having meetings. Right now we can't, so we're doing this, but being innovative. And I think that's the role the chamber is really going to play to help businesses right now. Is, we always talk about being the innovation hub. I think this is a great opportunity for us to demonstrate what that means, which is, I didn't even know what a Zoom meeting was before this started. My first Zoom meeting was with the chamber, and my boss John just hosted a Zoom meeting for an Easter celebration for 40 members of his family. John's got a big family, and being Murphy, Catholic and Irish, so Mass on Easter Sunday was important to them. But that's one example, that I learned personally just from what the chamber's doing. And I think the other thing is putting businesses in touch with solutions. So John Doty, right? He's a banker. You know John. He's heading up our government issues committee. John's done a wonderful job of providing feedback on the small business loans that are available. In particular, the payroll protection plan. That's been a big one. That's gotten a lot of public play. John did a fantastic job of kind of lining out how that works. Vonnie, then, the chamber has, if you go on the chamber's website, you can find information for everything from top to bottom about how you go about applying for a loan, what the government agency is that's going to have oversight over it, and that can be at your fingertips in an instant. So I think that innovation has been critical. We couldn't have done this. We didn't do this 3 months ago, right? We had no idea about what we were really capable of doing in spite of this. And I think providing that inspiration and that innovation spark is what the chamber is going to do best.
Okay, Vonnie?
So, yes, everything that Charlie said. So the pivot is remarkable. It's reflective of here, what we've always known and what I've said, and I think repeated multiple times, both in our strategic planning, in our conversations, in our staff development, onboarding, training, and ongoing knowledge, is that we have to be innovative. In fact, it's one of our values, right? Embody innovation. We adopted that before we had any idea that any of this was going on, because quite honestly, we're a business. We are an organization made up of businesses, both nonprofit and for-profit businesses, business models. we know that innovation is the most critical thing. Whether you know what's going to happen, you have to be adaptive to an ever-changing, whether it's a business cycle or economic, circumstances or whatever. So we were already, I think, in the frame of mind to be able to do this, so that the actual adaptation and the pivot and the change was less painful as an organization, if we're talking about the chamber as an organization, than otherwise it might have been. So we do that because we believe in best practices, and we believe we have to model excellence in terms of how we do business and how we prepare for whatever circumstances, well, so that we can be a better organization for our members, a better resource. So certainly the pivot was fast, almost. Senator Merkley actually said it, Herculean for most small businesses and certainly for chambers of commerce, and it felt like that. We did it pretty quickly. We knew, and here's how we do that. We know what our mission is. We know what our focus is. We know what our purpose is. Our purpose is to anticipate and address and meet the needs of our business community. So when we saw that happening around us, we simply had to pivot and position in a place that we were going to be most resourceful and deliver on our commitment to our members, which is to be a resource hub, to be knowledgeable, to have credible information, whether that's delivering programs or Zoom conferences or meetings, or a resource hub of information, or also, as importantly, working with our economic development partners, of which there are many doing wonderful things. We can't do it all, and we know that, but we certainly know we have we can tap the resources of someone who may be able to do it better, whether that's workforce solutions or a loan. We pivoted pretty quickly, certainly ran out quickly, but the small business emergency relief loan that our local government agencies pulled together with Community Lending Works was incredible. And we're looking for possibility of more resources for that. But so I don't know if I answered your question, but I answered what I thought I wanted to say.
Yeah. You did. It's a lot. It was a loaded question, and it is a lot. All the action being taken by our Springfield Chamber of Commerce, you've moved at almost a military-like speed as the chamber staff to get the information distilled, synthesized, disseminated quickly to the members, to the leadership. As I've said before, you've made our job as a board very easy to do because you've been a step ahead of us this entire process. And the board, like John Doty, has come around with the PPP and these other programs, but there's been no doubt that your vision and your sense of purpose, Vonnie, it's compelling. And the staff that you've assembled at the chamber headquarters, their skill set and skill level is unlike anything I've ever seen of the staff that's ever been in place there before.
Yeah, I have to say they truly have responded. They truly have stayed ahead. I think that I believe it was the first notice, it was like the second week in March when we started seeing the restrictions come down to below 50. We knew it was going to be a significant shift. I remember whiteboarding. So my team knows I love a whiteboard. They're in every single room in our office when we get back there. I'm kind of missing it right now. But assembled everybody, and for us to get in the frame of mind, it required some visualization. So I threw up 3 categories because this is where we were at that time. Right now, immediate. Right now, today, the next 5 minutes, the next hour, right now, immediate, because things are changing so swiftly. Then there was the evolving, and that could be today is different than yesterday. Tomorrow might be different than today, but this is the circumstances that we have to be prepared for. So what are our evolving needs? And then what is our immediate near future needs? So even today, as we're kind of spinning and spinning around, there's the evolving, and then there's that immediate near future. We can't leave that off the table. You know, it's kind of a luxury to be able to do that. You felt like you didn't have time to do that, but we had to be thinking about, because of, you know, how we operate as an organization in service to our members, we had to be thinking from now to 4 weeks out or 6 weeks out. So there were some programs that needed to be canceled, some vendors that needed to be notified, some members that should be notified. So we had this mapped out in our head, at least, and we sort of, you know, we did the matrix listing and cross-referencing. The first at the top, I'll just let you know, at the very top of that immediate right now, because we were in that circumstances, the very top of that vertical list was staff. And we had to stop, we had to pause, and I had to make sure that we weren't forgetting to take care of ourselves first.
Right.
It was my first priority. We had some staff members that had just returned from, at that time, it was still okay to be traveling, but had just returned, some that were getting ready to go, some, you know, circumstances at home. So we had to do also, you know, and I asked a lot, there's a lot, you know, asked a lot of the team to be both responsible and taking care of themselves, and then also be responsible and accountable to their work and their our members as a whole. But at the end of the exercise, and this is within a half hour, 45-minute exercise, we're not talking about a 3-hour workshop on staff, but the question that I posed is, okay, what should we be doing and what can we be doing? Because you feel a little bit out of control, right, of your circumstances, but there's always something that you can be doing, and there's always something that you probably should be doing. And so that's where we sort of, that was kind of in a 1 hour sort of, never before have we experienced this, let's figure this out, a shift and a pivot and an orientation of our team on the staff. And I'm sure that went on in staff rooms across the, you know, one way or another, by business leaders and their teams across the, you know, across the region too. So, but it was a lesson, I think, for all of us.
Charlie, do you want to say anything?
No, I you know, we went through, and we still are going to make the same things. I think, Mark, you mentioned military precision. There's a lot of that translates over to on the manufacturing side. So we're still, I think you'll notice I'm still sitting in my office. We're one of the rare beasts out there that a unicorn, I think, right? That we're still operating mostly normally, but every day from when this started and up till now, we're having those conversations about what's our immediate needs, what's going to be our needs over the next 30 days, and what's this look like when we come out the other side, because we will come out the other side. You know, I get so tired of the news telling us about how terrible things are, because it's fun to tell that stuff. If you're in the news, it's newsworthy, right? Okay, I get it. What I really would like to hear is more about when this is over. How do we start stuff back up? What things come on first? What things come on second? I know that's what our government is working through right now. In fact, I think the West Coast, it's called the West Coast Coalition, right? We've got Inslee and Brown and Newsom all starting to sing from the same chorus book, which is good. So we are starting to see some of that coming out. But I think every business has to start thinking, if they're not already doing that, they need to start thinking, as Vonnie said, what's going on now? What's 30 days? What's 3 months? What's it look like when this comes out the other side? And how do I get from point A to point B? Use the resources that the chamber has, the city has, the unemployment division has. Use those resources. I know that it's hard to get a hold of some folks. You can always get a hold of us. Vonnie's team is, if nothing else, tenacious. We will find that answer if it's available, or we'll point you to the person who does have an answer. So, it's a good old-fashioned blocking and tackling people really have to focus on right now.
So earlier, Vonnie, Charlie mentioned the quality and quantitative amounts of information that are on the chamber website. Would you like to talk about that briefly?
Sure. Let me Let me follow. So we have a couple of things. If you go to springfield-chamber.org, that'll get you to the landing page, and on it's actually a very simple navigational website, and you can see sort of there's some banner thing on the very landing page, our business resource hub, which you click on that and that goes straight to a very streamlined version of where we started, at least, with just a lot of lists on anything from informational webinars that have been recorded and we're offering free of charge, to calls to action. For example, there's currently an important statewide impact survey that Biz Oregon is circulating across the state, and we definitely want our local businesses and members to take that survey. It's about no more than 10-minute survey, but it'll help inform the statewide action going forward. So we're focused on that. The CARES Act information and resources, a number of different ones there, something on the EIDL loan, as well as the Paycheck Protection Program. And we have actually Paycheck Protection Program, we have a list of our member financial institutions that are offering loans for that PPP. We have other financial resources, other business resources, a variety of those, from unemployment to SAFE to industry specific, whether it's construction or nonprofit recovery. So the list goes on, but I think that the point is that we are committed to, at least temporarily, to providing 24/7, 365 information and resources, so that any given time someone can at least look around and see if they can find what they're looking for, and if they can't, they know they can get in touch with us. Our emails, chamber staff, are listed on the website, and our staff, all of them are fully working remote right now, but we have email contacts and so on and so forth. The other thing that I know, Mark, you're paying close attention to, and I'll call folks' attention to, is our advocacy and elections page, which we just launched today. That's under a tab on our website as well. And we're committed to, the primary elections are coming up, as you well know, in May. And I think this week you've been doing a number of interviews. We actually circulated to our Springfield City Council candidates, as well as our mayoral candidates, a in-depth questionnaire that most, not all, but most have responded and submitted those. So you can find their answers and their questions that are specifically of interest to the chamber community, specifically businesses. So you can find those on that website, as well as different links to online candidate forums that are happening.
Very good. Now, is there anything that we might need to be aware of that the state chamber is trying to take action on or looking forward to help us locally?
So I will say, currently right now, there are three things. What we've learned just this last week is that it's not likely that the governor or the state legislative leadership are going to call an emergency session of the legislature anytime soon. And there are a number of reasons that probably we won't go into, but probably we can expect to see economic forecasts, revenue forecasts in May, mid-May, and those will probably be telling, and it won't be good. I'll just say it, it's going to be bad news, most likely. So our efforts are still focused on that federal level of funding and some additional funds for the small business loans, as well as some fixes, if you will, to address what we see as shortcomings in the Paycheck Protection Plan. So the Oregon State Chamber has issued a 3-point ask, one of which is fully funding the $10,000 advanced loan or grant of the economic injury disaster loans, as opposed to up to, which it requires more dollars to the SBA. The second is that the Paycheck Protection Plan is given an extension through September 30th, that employers are able to track and report their payroll through September as opposed to June, given that the 8 weeks that they may get forgivable loans on will not be applicable, since most aren't going to be able to, or potentially not many who need it will be able to hire back before the end of June and be fully recovered. So we're asking for an extension of that. And then the third piece is really critical that not many folks know about, and quite honestly, it's it sounds self-serving, but it isn't. And so I'm going to say it anyway. So chambers of commerce fall under the IRS code of 501c6, which is a membership association organization similar to professional organizations, professional development organizations, that are working local level to ensure the success of the federal relief efforts and our local business communities. And yet, as of now, we have no path to receiving any of the grant money and or the Paycheck Protection Plan loans to help us through what could be a very impactful and unfavorably impactful period of time as our members are trying to recover. So we're asking for some acknowledgement and recognition. That probably isn't going to happen until the quote unquote fourth phase of the project, but we're going to continue and see if there might be something. I think we have the ear of many of our congressional representatives as well as our senators. So
Okay, very good. Charlie?
But let me say this, you know, to Vonnie's point, the chamber is obviously not immune to the financial challenges that every company is facing right now. We are in the unfortunate position of not being able to participate in one of those key programs. But I can tell you this with certainty. Our chamber, from a fiscal side of things, is incredibly strong. Mm-hmm. I think I told you early on that the committee near and dear to my old bean counter heart is the finance committee. And we had we've had several good meetings around this. Vonnie and I have talked privately together about what if scenarios for the chamber from just pure nickels, dimes, and quarters. We're very strong financially. We've got a nice reserve that, as you know, Mark, one of the things we're working on is a future chamber home. But and we're still moving forward with that, by the way, albeit maybe slowly. We're not going to let projects languish just because of this little thing called the coronavirus. But I'd like members to rest assured that we are working very hard on that also, making sure that we're adequately funded, being good stewards of their membership dues that they're submitting, because we know that's a sacrifice on their part right now to continue making those. And we'll be, you know, we'll have a bit more of this in the board meeting tomorrow, Mark, which hopefully you'll be able to attend. Yes. Which I won't go into the great details here because the board's going to need to vote on it. But we have a couple of recommendations that's come from Finance Committee and Executive Committee that I think the chamber will find good. But to Vonnie's point, keeping the staff involved and engaged and intact to the degree we can, because as hard as they're working now, it's going to get harder. Yes. When things start turning on, because there's going to be all kinds of new questions to answer that none of us have even thought about yet. So that gets back to being staffed properly, being innovative and responsive.
Well, as we wrap up, I want to end with our first board meeting when this all began to hit our community hard. And I remember how somber it was and the heaviness in everyone's heart and spirit. And for some, it was quite understandably very emotional. And I was struggling for several days post-meeting with the gravity of what we were facing as community leaders. Charlie, I'll start with you. As chairman of the board, what final words of encouragement or commitment would you like to make to, first of all, our board members to stay together and our membership of the chamber as well as our community?
Well, I guess what I would say, the speech that I did and the ceremony earlier in January, we're not going to be afraid to take positions on things that matter. We're going to continue to do that, and we're going to continue to do certain things better than other boards. We're going to continue to make our pitch to say government and education and business are not mutually exclusive. They're one and the same. And I guess the thing that you'll hear from me tomorrow is that at the end of the day, this is a somber thing we're going through, but we are Americans. And one thing we're really good at is working through hard times. And we're gonna work through this the same way.
Very good, Vonnie.
I would say, some would say things will never be the same. And I would say, yes, in some cases that might be true, but honestly, truly, some things will stay the same. And that is the Chamber of Commerce, and Springfield specifically, for example, has been around for over 100 years, and for good reason. And we will be here to carry to build that, I call it the proverbial bridge. Chambers of Commerce, the Springfield Chamber community built a bridge back in the early 1900s. We will build a bridge again. We'll need to do it together. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fast. We'll make it happen though. And we will be here on the other side. We'll be through it. We'll be here through it. And again, on the other side. And we hope that we can do that together with our community at large support, and certainly with our businesses who are most critical, both individually and collectively. I think of the people and the livelihoods, and not only those business owners, but their employees who I know they care about, and their families. That's why we'll be here.
Very good. And just, as I'm serving on the board, I just want to say that I'm looking forward to maintaining a position of locked arms with our board and our community and the chamber staff, and helping us move forward as successfully as possible. And we will recover, and we will be successful, and there will be changes and a lot to learn, and we will learn it and we will change, but we will come out on the other side. There's no doubt. Vonnie, our community is blessed beyond measure to have you as our CEO, and Charlie, with what the seasons you've seen, with the role that you survived as a CFO during the market crash, with manufacturing, you've seen a lot too. And I think it's a very important relationship with you as our board chair, and to help lead the board, but also to help serve by Vonnie's side, having seen that serious economic downturn in the past. You have that experience to draw from, and we have Vonnie's expanded leadership role. I think it's a perfect relationship of leadership. So for those that are watching, I want to we have again Vonnie Mikkelson, Chief Executive Officer of the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, and Charlie Kimball, who is Chairman of the Board for the Springfield Board of Directors and Chief Financial Officer for Murphy & Company. I want to thank you both for your time, for your accessibility today, and thank you for your willingness to answer the questions as heartfelt and genuine and sincere as they were. We have work ahead of us and for our community, but we will do it, and we will do it together.
Thanks, Mark.
All right,
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for your time. You both have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.